Broncos country, welcome back to another video here on the Parker Love Sports YouTube channel. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend them here with me. And in today's video, we're going to be going over both the wide receiver and the running back room, as that room has a lot of talent in it. And there's going to need to be some tough cuts for the Denver Broncos because a lot of players have been performing, but we can't keep everyone in that position group for both the receivers and the running backs. I do plan on doing my final roster prediction in the coming days. I was actually planning on releasing it as this video, but there are some positions that I'm kind of struggling to cut down. Defensive backs, corners, obviously corners and safeties are part of the defensive back groups. The wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks. Do we keep all three or do we just bring them down to two? So I'm kind of struggling a little bit here. So give me a few more days for my final roster prediction before preseason week 3. That's when I'm hoping to get it out. But we'll see. I got to get back in this content grind. But yeah, in today's video, we're going to go over the tough wide receiver and halfback cuts. But we also, as the day I'm recording this, we had some very important breaking news, which we'll get to here in just a minute. And as always, I just want to ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as the support is greatly appreciated. And by subscribing and leaving a like helps support the channel, because I want to hopefully do this as a career one day. And if you could help me reach my goal, that would mean the absolute world to me. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and put first things first. And I just want to remind you that Jesus is King, and I pray that you give your life to him, as he has got a plan and a purpose for you. And I just truly hope that you trust with your whole heart that Jesus died on the cross for your sins. That's the only way that gets us to heaven. A lot of people think that we have to be perfect, that we have to go to church a certain amount of times, do these good works a certain amount of times, read the Bible a certain amount of times. But quite frankly, the only way that we are saved is through Jesus and his sacrifice on the cross, that he lived a perfect life, didn't sin, and then was resurrected from the dead 3 days later. And it's because of his sacrifice that we are saved. Now, a lot of people aren't going to like that I'm sharing this message, but I don't care, because it's important to me, and it's important to spread to as many people as possible. So yeah, I'm sorry if you don't like it, but I'm going to continue to share this message before every single one of my videos. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump in to the breaking news, which is Bo Nix has been named the Week 1 starter for the Denver Broncos, and I'm actually wearing his jersey right now. This is the, if I can show you, this is the throwback jerseys, which we are wearing 2 weeks. It's week 5, I believe, against the Raiders, and week 18 against the Kansas City Chiefs. So against two of our division rivals, which makes sense. I think we're allowed to wear it up to 3 times. So I'm hoping they add another week that we wear this jersey. But yeah, I love this throwback jersey. I had to get Bo Nix, and it's kind of funny that I got Bo Nix because, he's slowly becoming one of my favorite players, not just on the Broncos, but in the league. But it's kind of funny because I always seem to have the number 10 for the Denver Broncos. It's Bo Nix now. I had Jerry Jeudy's because he was my favorite player, and then obviously we traded him away. And then before Jerry Jeudy, I had Emmanuel Sanders jersey. So I just keep piling up the number 10's jerseys. Hopefully we don't have another 10 for a while. But Bo Nix, so far in the preseason, he's played in 2 games with a total of 7 drives. Forgot to highlight that, but it is what it is. And he has scored on 6 of his 7 drives. Now, the 7th drive that he didn't score on, that was when he threw the pass to Lucas Kroll, and Lucas Kroll fumbled it on the first play. So who knows what would have happened, but he has scored on 6 out of 7 of his drives. He's 20 for 30 in terms of completions with 205 yards. He has 2 touchdowns. Of course, it's on that jet pass to Marvin Mims, and then, of course, to Tim Patrick as well. You could argue that technically he should have 4. Obviously, he was over the line of scrimmage when he threw that touchdown, which obviously doesn't count. But when you're looking at the improvisation, him running out, him rolling out, and then making an off-platform throw, you like what you see there. Obviously, you'd like for him to do that behind the line of scrimmage, but you like what you saw there. And then Josh Reynolds should have had one against the Colts, but no ifs, ands, or buts. He has 2 touchdowns, no picks, and he has a passer rating of 116.7. Bo has been balling. Now, of course, I don't think we're going to see him in preseason week 3. Maybe we will. But when he plays against Seattle for week 1, let's not turn on him. He might struggle because he'll be going up against a first-team defense for, I believe, the first time since he didn't get to go against the Colts first stringers, I believe. So, obviously we hope he doesn't struggle, but, let's give him some leeway. So we'll have to see, but I am very excited for Bo Nix to be the starter. The future is essentially right now, and I can't wait to see what Bo gives us in the regular season for a full game. So yeah, we'll have to see. But now let's go ahead and let's keep this rolling because we're at 5 minutes now. Let's start with the wide receiver. The wide receivers, geez. So here is the wide receiver group. We, of course, have Courtland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Mims, Tim Patrick, Troy Franklin, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Devon Vele, Brandon Johnson, Jalen Virgil. Jalen Virgil, I don't know why I stopped there. I thought I misspelled it for a second. Philip Dorsett, Michael Bandy, and David Sills are all the current wide receivers on the Denver Broncos. Now, here are the wide receivers that I think are essentially a lock to make the team no matter what. I think Courtland Sutton's going to make the team. I think Josh Reynolds is going to make the team. I think Marvin Mims is essentially going to be a lock to make the team. I think Tim Patrick is going to be a lock to make the team. And I think Troy Franklin is going to be a lock to be on the team. I think these are the 5 that we can count on to be on the roster when cutdown day comes and we have the final 53-man roster. I think these 5 will be on the roster. Who knows? I think we had 3 or 4 wide receivers on the roster at the start of last year. But I do expect these 5 to be on the roster at the start of the year. Now, here are some bubble wide receivers that, I think they're still going to be fighting for a job this preseason game. So I think they could tip themselves in or, maybe not. I think the first one is going to be Devon Vele. I think he probably makes the team. He's been balling out. Of course, missed the last preseason game, but he's been performing a lot better than I expected him to when we drafted him in the 7th round. I didn't even know who he was when we drafted him, and I didn't expect him to make the roster. I expected him to be a practice squad guy, but I think he potentially makes the roster. Lil Jordan Humphrey, who was very solid for us last season. Brandon Johnson, who was on the roster, dealt with injuries last season. And then Jalen Virgil, who looked promising, but went down early in the preseason last year and missed the entire season. Then here are the wide receivers with the longest shot of making the roster, in my opinion. The first one is going to be Philip Dorsett. He's a veteran. He's getting older. We'll see. Maybe Sean Payton wants that veteran presence at the wide receiver position, but I feel like you got that in Courtland Sutton and Josh Reynolds. Then you have Michael Bandy, who maybe makes it as a depth returner. He's got a lot of speed to him. He's going to be kind of that special teams returner. Could make it as a special teamer, but when you look at the roster, you got Marvin Mims, you got Riley Moss, who I know has been taking some practice at returner. You got Traylon Smith. You got a lot of other guys, so maybe Michael Bandy makes the roster as a returner, but I kind of doubt it. And then finally, I think David Sills is also a long shot. Really cool story. If you haven't seen it, go look up David Sills' story. Essentially, he was a 14-year-old. He got recruited by, what's his name? Lane Kiffin to go to USC. He commits there at 14 years old. Lane Kiffin gets fired. And essentially, he ends up as a wide receiver for the West Virginia Mountaineers. Really cool story, but I don't really think he makes the roster. But here are my wide receiver predictions. I have Courtland Sutton. And I think, by the way, the Broncos, we're going to keep around 5 at the minimum to a maximum of 7 receivers. So I think it's kind of in that window. I think Courtland Sutton makes the roster. I think Josh Reynolds makes the roster. I think Marvin Mims makes the roster. Tim Patrick makes the roster. Troy Franklin makes the roster. And I'm going to have Devon Vele making the roster. Those are the 6 that I have making the roster for the Denver Broncos. And if there were to be a 7th, just theoretically, I don't think we're going to keep 7. I had it in the range, but I don't think we will. But if we do, I would probably say that 7th spot is going to go to Lil Jordan Humphrey. Haven't really heard his name a whole lot this preseason, but I do think if there is that 7th spot, I do think that it's going to be given to Lil Jordan Humphrey. Next up is going to be the running back position. And you see there in the brackets, I forgot to do it for the receivers, but I have 3 to 5. Essentially what that means is I think we're going to keep anywhere from 3 to 5 running backs on the roster, just to clarify what that means. But yeah, Javonte Williams, here are the running backs. We got Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, Tyler Beatty, and Blake Watson. Those are the 6 current running backs on the roster. So in my prediction, at worst, we're cutting 1 and then keeping the rest. Or I guess at best, for the running backs at 5, keeping 5. Or at worst, keeping 3. We would cut half of these guys. Now, here are who I think are the locks making the Denver Broncos roster. It's going to be Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Audric Estime. I think, obviously, Estime, he's a 5th-round pick. Now, Sean Payton could cut him, but I think he's going to make the roster. I think the Broncos love the upside in Estime. He was one of the better running backs in this class, and I think Sean Payton likes what Audric Estime brings to the roster. Then, of course, Jaleel McLaughlin, he is a guy who's like that shifty scat back. He can catch passes out of the backfield. And then Javonte Williams looks healthy, back to that, 2021 form where he was just running through everyone. Javonte Williams finally looks healthy again. So I think he is going to be the running back 1 right now. But yeah, those are the 3 I think are automatically going to make the roster as of right now. Now, in terms of the bubble running backs, it's going to be Samaje Perine, Blake Watson, and Tyler Beatty. So, obviously, Samaje Perine, we signed to a contract last offseason. Blake Watson, he was a UDFA from this past draft. Someone who I thought was definitely going to be drafted, wasn't, and then signed with the Broncos, which is a great undrafted free agent signing. And then Tyler Beatty, someone who was drafted in the 6th round back in, I think it was 2021-22 by the Baltimore Ravens, was on their practice squad. Then we've signed him. He's been having a really, really solid preseason. But, of course, we cannot keep everyone. We cannot keep all of these players. So, I accidentally have wide receiver prediction. Ignore that. Ignore that. I'm sorry. I just forgot to change that. But this is the running back position. You know what? I'll take my time. I'll edit this video. Let me go switch that real quick because my OCD is just going off. So I'll catch you just in a second. Alrighty, so we are back. So here's the running back prediction. So I do have the starter being Javonte Williams. He looks healthy. Hopefully he can stay in that 2021 form. He looks like that in the preseason. Of course, take everything with a grain of salt in preseason. But I do expect Javonte Williams to be the number 1 running back. Now, I don't expect him to be that running back 1 all season. Well, I hope he is. But if he doesn't play well, I think he's going to be on a short leash because of the guys the Denver Broncos have. Look, Jaleel McLaughlin's there. I definitely think he will get some snaps. I think he could be the passing, or I guess he could be the receiving back for the Broncos. And I expect him to get a significant amount of playing time, even if Javonte is back in that 2021 form. McLaughlin had a very solid rookie season last year, and I expect him to improve upon that. So I do expect Jaleel McLaughlin to be very utilized this upcoming season. Then next up, we have Audric Estime, who kind of plays the same role as Javonte, that thumper, that very physical runner. Doesn't have a lot of top-end speed, but he's going to run through some people. I don't think he had the greatest second preseason game, but, I'm hoping he improves on it. I really like Audric Estime. I like the upside that he brings. This dude's an absolute tank. But yeah, I do think Audric Estime is going to be the number 3 running back. So I have all 3 locks there. And if you can tell by the spacing, there's only 1 running back spot left. Is that going to go to the veteran Samaje Perine? Is that going to go to Blake Watson, the undrafted free agent? Or is that going to go to Tyler Beatty, who's been balling out? Well, I have it as Blake Watson. If you guys have watched my videos ever since, I think it was the Broncos undrafted free agent video right after the draft, I've been super high on Blake Watson ever since then. And in the first preseason game, he balled out. Didn't really get a whole lot of opportunities in the second preseason game, so maybe that tells you something. But I really like what Blake Watson brings to this team, and so he's going to be my 4th running back prediction for the Broncos. So that means we're keeping 4, we're cutting 2, Perine, gone, and then Beatty gone, maybe a practice squad type of guy. But I really think that if we put Blake Watson on the practice squad, I think some team would sign him to their active roster. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just a little paranoid, but I think with the upside, with him being one of the most priority, I guess one of the highest priority undrafted free agents, I think he will find a home pretty quickly. So I do have him making the roster. Maybe this is a redshirt year where he develops, but to me, Blake Watson is going to be the fourth running back for that team. P. Ryan has kind of not performed the best. He was already on the bubble, kind of looking on the out. He was kind of on the outside looking in. Geez, I cannot speak right now. And then he shot himself in the foot when he bobbled that pass and it got intercepted. And I do think that most likely P. Ryan will be cut, but I do think he's going to find a home pretty quickly. He's a veteran running back, so I think Samaje P. Ryan will have a job this season. And then Tyler Beatty, you could easily replace him here. I was going between, is it going to be Blake Watson? Is it going to be Tyler Beatty? I went with Watson, so yeah, that is my prediction. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I got a couple videos planned for this week. Hopefully I get them out. Hopefully I get on top of my game and I don't procrastinate. But I got 2 videos planned, so we'll see. But as always, take care. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. And my name is Parker, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.